Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. My first conversation focuses on the Joint Select Committee on National Security. Now, a recent report by the Joint Select Committee not only looked at the police service but also looked at the courts of law as well as the prison system. Now, I'm quoting directly from said report. It states, recent years have seen a substantial increase in public distrust of the service, with topical discussions on its performance and competency exacerbated by incidences of police malpractice, unlawful conduct, corruption, and extrajudicial killings that have been highly publicized. The report went on to say that in 2022, 12,802 serious crimes reported, prosecutions begun on 4,066 of said cases, and convictions were secured in 473 cases. On average, 36% of reported crimes led to prosecutions, 5.7% led to convictions. Well, I'm joined by the chairman of the Joint Select Committee on National Security, Member of Parliament for Port of Spain South, Mr. Keith Scotland. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. Well, as disclosed by the Joint Select Committee's report, there's a high level of public mistrust within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Does such findings come as a surprise to you?
Well, it is always surprising in the sense that one would hope that the public trust in the police would increase and would augment. And all right-thinking citizens must be surprised about that. And what it means then is that there must be work done in order to increase the trust that the public has in the police service in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm. Now, in regard to the report, does it state any relationship between such high levels of mistrust within the service as well as the increase in criminal activity? Is it contributing to worsening crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the report did not get into that aspect of it, but if you do an analysis and a causality, a relationship, a causal relationship, you could say that, and if you analyze it properly, that the more trust the public has in the police, the more willing the public will be to make reports of crime to the police, and that would lead to the reduction in criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. One can form that causal link.
So we can state that there is a lack of willingness from the public to cooperate with the police, not in the sense that they are entirely against the police, but they don't necessarily trust the police enough to make reports when necessary, or even bear witness statements, or play any role in any active investigation.
Well, that is an aspect of it. Also, you know that, of course, the legislation has been changed now. So witnesses, and we won't say that witnesses have protection from the legislation as it relates to their witness statement, as it relates to testimony. So that is something that the public ought to know and ought to concentrate on in some regard, that there is protection out there for persons who feel that who know something and would want to come forward but are reluctant to do so because of the feeling that they do not feel secure. There are measures in place to protect those persons.
Mm-hmm. But Mr. Scotland, though legislation exists, is legislation enforced? The arguments that you're making, whilst I understand, members of the public will say, well, yes, Mr. Scotland, but bear in mind, it's the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service of which we're working with. They don't necessarily execute their duties and responsibilities to the satisfaction of the public, and in many instances they come under criticism. So does it even make sense having protection laws that are in place?
It makes absolute sense to have the protection laws. I do not think that it is fair to be overcritical and we cannot raise our hands in the air and give up because the answer to that is that if no one reports crime, how, apart from other ways of detection, how would crime be solved? So it's a give and take, and it's something that the service has to pull themselves up by the bootstraps to get the public on board and to get the public confidence at a level where the public and members of the public will be willing and ready to come forward and work hand in hand in the police, but the members of the public must have that confidence. So it's a two-way relationship, but it certainly needs to be done, because fighting crime is not only the purview, not within the exclusive purview of the police, but it relates to all of us, because we are all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, sir, and crime affects all of us.
Does the report also make any suggestions as per solutions to such issues that were highlighted when it was published?
The report has made certain observations about solutions to the problem. And one of the solutions, if you read the report, I think coming down to the end of that same section you read, is they need to have increased confidence by the public in the police force. You would see in the report there is certainly an aspect where the resources allocated to the justice system has been enormous, and there is not that concomitant result. And that is another area where resources and the allocation of resources need to be optimized in order to get the results that is required to bring down criminality and crime in Trinidad and Tobago. So there are solutions that have been suggested.
Now, well, whilst I understand the need to increase confidence within the service itself, how do we go about achieving that?
One aspect would be increased community policing, the increased presence. There is the gang reduction unit. That is something that came in since May 2022. So these are very concrete solutions that are there in order to build public confidence and to increase that confidence that the public has in the police. The time has come for, and it's now needed, it is almost a critical stage where we need to have the buy-in from the public in order for them to feel confident in the police force. And the police has to do its part, and the public has to do its part.
Are you of the opinion that the TCPS, within themselves, given their abilities and given their staffing, their resourcing, which has become heavily debated within recent years, suggestions that they are understaffed and under-resourced, do you think that the TTPS are even confident within themselves to execute their duties and responsibilities?
I think that they are. I think that there are very, very competent police officers there who are willing to do their jobs. It is not perfect. There's much to be done, but I will not sit here and be overcritical and unreasonably critical, but there needs to be an increase in even in the community police, and the emphasis placed on it, particularly in these times, because once they are within the communities, it means that the police will have their fingers on the pulse of what is going on in the police service. But I do think that there are competent police officers out there, and I do think that there's a need for us to work together.
What would you define as being overly critical in this particular instance?
That comment made by you, that if I think, or that question, which is premised on the basis that, well, the police has no clue, or the police is totally bereft of competencies in order to do their duties, that is overly critical.
Well, I don't recall making such a comment. I do recall asking whether or not they're understaffed or under-resourced, whether or not that leads to confidence within themselves. But moving forward now with the interview, do you think as well that given the training of police officers, which again has been debated within the last few years, I myself on this particular program and another platform have had such conversations, the training of Trinidad and Tobago police officers in interacting with the public. Most recently, one particular audio leak showed customer service, the interaction between one officer, bear in mind just one officer, and a member of the public. Members of the public have expressed that they have faced similar instances. Are police officers trained as part of this Joint Select Committee? I'm wondering if it was discussed whether or not they're actually trained to deal and interact with vulnerable members of the public who have been victims of crime.
That was not part of the remit of the report, but it is an issue, and I listened to the recording of the said police officer that came into the public domain. It certainly was not best practice and left some lots of room for improvement. There are times when I think I've had interactions with the police in various capacities. Some have been good, some have not been good, but there certainly needs to be some improvement in the interaction of the police officers with the public, because that itself is an aspect that will build confidence in the police force with the public. In other words, if the public is anticipating such a reply or such a response, the public will be very reluctant to make reports. The public will be very reluctant to come forward with information. So certainly there can and there needs to be improvement. Certainly that exchange that found its way in the social media certainly must not be repeated, and certainly must be rejected as what is the standard for the interaction with the police with the public. That does not inspire confidence, does it, sir?
Not in any way at all.
At all.
One of the other issues that don't necessarily inspire confidence is a low detection rate. Amongst the Joint Select Committee and members of such committee, was that also discussed? Any sort of insight into such, and what can be done to deal with a low detection rate?
The low detection rate has several aspects of it. It has aspects of reporting, it has aspects of investigation, and it has aspects of the activity itself. I think that the detection rate, and the short answer is that the detection rate needs to increase. And part of that is training. I know for sure that there are ongoing efforts in the police force to train the police officers in order to increase the detection rate. We have not distilled what the effects of that is, but the report has the detection rate, and that certainly needs to be increased. There's no doubt about that.
I want to move forward now. We focused on the TTPS because that was one of the bigger findings of the report. However, the report also focused on the court system as well as the prison system, and the report lamented on such problems as well. Is it contributing in any way to what some might argue as a failing criminal justice system?
All aspects of the criminal justice system, the courts, the police, the office of the DPP, contribute to the criminal justice system. And if one aspect is not up to speed, the other aspect follows. The prison service is certainly a critical area that needs to be looked at in more ways than one. And I think, I'm speaking now as someone who has looked at the areas, particularly in areas of restorative justice, it seems that the concept of recidivism as it relates to the prison system needs to be looked at, and certain things, certain courses, certain, I think, allocation of resources as it relates to the equipping of inmates to be reintegrated into society, which will then reduce recidivism, must be looked at. And in other words, persons who go into the prison for and are not hardened criminals, the phenomenon of the coming out hardened criminals must be looked at. And what happens to the experience, or what is the experience they have in the prison service that leads to that. That is very critical.
I think restorative justice indeed is absolutely critical, and such needs to have great focus.
Trinidad and Tobago. And it's critical for this reason. In the traditional criminal justice system, the focus is on the act committed and the penalty. In the restorative justice lens, you look at the offender, you look at the victim, you look at the community, you look at repairing harm done. And that, for this society, is critical.
Mr. Scotland, given the issues with crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago, and the reports, I suppose, concretizing the lack of public trust or confidence within the TTPS, as well as lamenting the state of the criminal justice system, do you believe that Trinbagonians will accept restorative justice solutions? It seems as though their frustrations would want harsher penalties in place for criminals and criminal acts.
Restorative justice is not an approach that advocates, per se, less harsh penalties. What it focuses on, sir, is the repairing of the harm done. And for example, the penalties are there in the law, you know, and the penalties are not to be reduced. What restorative justice does, it engages both sides. It makes the victim a part of it. It deals sometimes with victim impact statement. It deals with an apology. Sometimes it deals with the fact that the victim is entitled outside of the normal criminal justice system, which is you go as a witness and you testify. You have victim offender mediation, which is VOM. You have VOC. You have circles. You have things which allow persons, victims, and offenders to see what may have been the root causes, and it does not advocate less harsh penalties, but what it advocates is the harm that was done. Let us see if there can be some reparation for that. Let's see if there can be restorative justice.
And interestingly, it comes back to a lack of willingness by the public to interact with the TTPS.
It is something that has to be looked at. There are decent, hard-working police officers out there. Come out and put yourselves in the majority, just as there is that recording that showed or that manifested the approach by the woman police officer. There are several others, I think, that would show officers engaging the public. Let's see if we can do first the positive and focus on the positive. It is critically needed at this juncture in Trinidad and Tobago. Critically needed.
Also, in regards to reporting, even in regards to the initiation of investigations, prosecution, conviction, are there delays, gaps in between such that are also contributing to this issue within the criminal justice system?
There are, and delays sometimes are monumental. There's a famous case now that has been going on for decades, without calling it, that in the United States, persons have already had their trials, served their time, and are now out. We need to speed up the criminal justice system. It may have something to do also with the amount of prosecutorial staff in the DPP's office. That is something that you can see that the report addresses that, I think, at page 32. There are several issues that lead to delay in the criminal system and needs to be addressed.
You are the chairman of the Joint Select Committee on National Security. You hold the position also as a member of Parliament. And being a member of Parliament for the government that represents the people of Trinidad and Tobago, what has this report revealed to you about the government's responsibilities in trying to deal with the findings of the report and pushing forward solutions?
firstly, that there was the will to address it. If you look at the report does say that the resources have been allocated. There is room for improvement, particularly detention, prosecutions. There's room for the increase in public confidence in the police. But what there is there's the will, and with the will comes the allocation of resources, and that is something that is unwavering. Like this guy, unwavering.
Certainly. And Mr. Scotland, I think we both have hopes that we don't have to have a similar conversation in 1 year's time. And I say 1 year's time because nothing changes overnight. We have to be fair in that context as well.
Agreed. The conversation, I join with you with the hope that the conversation will change. The conversation needs to change because I say it all the time. We live in this society. This is our society. I say and I repeat that crime affects us all, and we all have our role to play. I will give you one example. I was trying to do my work at the Bamboo Cathedral over the weekend, and 2 vehicles moved the barriers. And whilst people were walking, they were driving up there without the permission of the CDA. That type of lawlessness, how do you address that type of personal responsibility for lawlessness? It certainly is not the fault of the police. It is not the fault of the prison. It is not the fault of the government. But here you have citizens and putting others at risk, because if you know what the cathedral, people were walking there, they're not expecting vehicles. You understand? That is the type. So firstly, there's an issue of personal responsibility. Then there's, of course, the responsibility of those who are empowered and have their duty to protect and serve and to uphold the law. And we need all hands on deck. And I'm hoping that next year, if and when we have this conversation, the narrative will change.
Agreed very much so. Well, Mr. Scotland, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to join me on the program this morning and have this discussion.
You are very welcome. I got the notice yesterday. No, maybe it was the day before yesterday, but you are very welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Do have a good day. All the very best.
You and your staff.
Yes. Chairman of the Joint Select Committee on National Security, a Member of Parliament, Keith Scotland, joining me this morning. So, yes, it has been recognised, the increasing levels of mistrust and a lack of confidence within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And I agree, it's an all-rounded effort because society also has a role to play. But going forward, what this report has highlighted, we can only hope that it leads to solutions and solutions that are effective, so that in a year's time or less, the narrative would have changed and the report would have proven fruitful. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
My name is Carl Media. I am the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen, and again, thank you very much for joining us this morning as we focus now on Tobago. Over the last few days, we've debated very heavily at times the situation surrounding national security in Trinidad and Tobago. But specifically, we've also had our concerns with Tobago, given that Tobago, yes, it has faced criminal acts previously, but what we're witnessing now is, I think, really breaking everyone's hearts. Tobago was, and I will still say is, a gem, and let's hope this situation really cools down. But exactly what is taking place and what is being implemented, who are the parties that are necessary in any sort of conversation, strategies or solutions to deal with this situation? I'm joined by a crime economist, Mr. Anson Richards, and he is with us virtually. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you are.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Well, the Chief Secretary has expressed his concerns, his alarms over what he describes as gang culture in Tobago. Now, he's also made statements reflective that the gangs or the issues associated with Trinidad are becoming nationalized. Are there credence to such statements, or is it that there always was a gang culture on the island of Tobago that was just ignored?
Well, I can't say specifically as to whether there was always a gang culture in Tobago. What I can say is that the patterns of crime that we have been observing in Trinidad over the last 15, 20 years are now emerging as fixtures or permanent in the crime characteristics in Tobago. So you're seeing the emergence of gun violence and the associated murders where weapons like guns are the weapons of choice in Tobago now. That has not been a historical antecedent of the Tobago security feature. So from that perspective, the Chief Secretary is most appropriate in his classification that the gun violence is becoming nationalized, as it were, because of the proliferation of small arms with conversions.
Now, Tobago also has a culture of being heavily family-oriented. Is that also having some level of impact with dealing with the crime situation in Tobago? Being so heavily family-oriented, even the police, and the island is small, has that also hindered the situation?
Well, definitely, and I've written about this some years ago, that Tobago, because of our intimate, small, and tight-knitted community characteristics and our social characteristics, we don't have that capacity to endure gun violence. So the presence of gun violence in Tobago is disturbing to every single Tobagonian in every family and in every household. So that is something that we need to treat with. We don't have the depth of the population depth because of the intimacy of the population, the small area. We don't have the population depth to dilute the impact of gun violence across our communities. So that is something that we have to understand because of our small size. Gun violence is going to rip our society apart.
But does that also suggest that given the small island and the nature of relationships, and that even the police service on the island of Tobago may at times be hesitant to deal with such situations, or they might be hesitant to face reality?
Well, that has been in the conversation for some time because of the family and community-oriented nature and the small intimacy of the society, that to be with one police officer are afraid to enforce or exercise their responsibilities and duties because they will be connected to some of the targets or suspects. That is one of the arguments that has happened, and we have seen over the years where the police service have moved to be unions who are police officers to Trinidad and brought Trinidadian to kind of dilute and rectify that kind of concern. But I'm saying, as a police officer, and having served in the service for a number of years as a police officer from 1990 until 2000 when I left to join the THA, when you take an oath of office, it's a serious commitment to the deployment of safety and security to the population. It's a fundamental constitutional responsibility that you are assuming. And therefore, it's a bit challenging for me, having been a police officer, and the way I went about my duties, to accept that as one of the factors contributing to crime. I have seen police officers who are Tobagonian fearlessly, without favor, malice, or ill will, enforce the law in Tobago. And yes, you have had persons in the community saying, "Oh, I know Constable X, and that is his family, and he arrested him," but beyond that, you have taken an oath to deliver safety and security and the protection of the citizens in terms of their constitutional right and enjoyment, and the right to enjoyment of their properties. But that is of concern, that is part of the conversation, and it is important that the authorities pay attention to that kind of concern as to whether it's a variable in the crime equation or contributing variable. That is something that we need to look at seriously.
Well, the Chief Secretary has also indicated that there is a dire need for new strategies in dealing with the situation on the island. Now, it's not necessarily wanting to have any sort of spillover in terms of responsibilities between the Tobago House of Assembly and the police service. However, exactly in your opinion, whom do you think are the parties that are necessary to bring to any table in trying to source solutions and implement such solutions?
So, if we go from the legal perspective, because of the constitutional construct and the areas of responsibility for the THA, as is established in Act 40 of 1996, national security is not one of that responsibility that has been ceded to the THA in terms of the island of Tobago. So the issue of national security is vested in the central government, and more specifically in the National Security Council, which the Prime Minister is the chair and head of, and he's the executive head of the government. So therefore, the responsibility for the deployment and the development and of the national security resources and the improvement to the infrastructure is really a national issue that resides with the cabinet and the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. So from that perspective, there has to be a functional relationship between the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary, where they can meet, and the Act provides it, the TK Act provides a legal framework for that to happen under Section 31 of the Act, where they should meet regularly to co-create solutions to problems that impacts both Trinidad and Tobago, and for the improved harmonious relationship between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the island government of Tobago. So there's a legal framework to happen. I have been advocating over the years when Mr. Orville London was Chief Secretary, that the Prime Minister of the country should see that the country is run by two executives. There's an executive council in Trinidad, and there's a cabinet in Tobago, and there's a cabinet in Trinidad, and there has to be a functional relationship at the head of these executive authorities. And I think there's a room and a door for the Prime Minister to have, on occasion, the Chief Secretary participating in the National Security Council, where he can bring the security concerns of Tobago, of the island of Tobago, for which he has executive authority, for a wide spectrum of government functions, to bear on the discussion and deliberations and the proposed solution to the national security challenges we are facing. That's an important issue. There is nothing in law, and the Chief Secretary mentioned it in his budget speech, there is nothing in law that prevents the THA, and we have had different and several iterations of that concern, of the THA setting up what we call the Tobago or the THA police unit, under the context of what we are about building out is what we call a Department of Public Safety, because as you said, we don't want the we don't want the overlap with national security and confrontation and who's to. So the THA is in the process. We had a consultant working, and there's a first draft of his report on setting up our Department of Public Safety, which will include the THA police and all the other entities or units that we have that provide public safety, like the Coast Guard. We have environmental police. We have put in the traffic wardens, the litter wardens, forest rangers, and a whole host of, and TEMA, or Tobago Emergency Agency, will fall under that department in the office of the Chief Secretary, so that we can provide another layer of island security for the residents and visitors to this island. So that is a work in progress. This current administration has made it a priority project for Tobago, and they have put some resources behind it, so we have a consultant on board who is looking into that.
Fair enough in regards to the national security aspect. I understand that. But given your second part of your response, where there's no laws in place that prevents the Tobago House of Assembly from putting in place certain initiatives or procedures in regards to local security on the island. The Chief Secretary himself saying that there are new strategies that are needed, a dire need for new strategies. We need to have these conversations. Does that also suggest that he himself is not sure what to do?
No, the Chief Secretary is very aware. I am the Chief Technical Advisor to the Chief Secretary, and this is one of my areas of expertise. So the Chief Secretary is fully briefed. I think the Chief Secretary is just being careful because of the in terms of the areas of responsibility. So he wants to ensure that when he comes to the public with something, so he's given a broad, universal perspective of what his mind is playing with, but he's getting precise advice and direction as to how this should go. As a matter of fact, he's in the process of engaging the Prime Minister for a conversation on the security issue in Tobago, so that we can sit as administrations and government at different levels and co-create practical and implementable solutions to these challenges that we are facing. There are some quick wins, and we have had, and the Chief Secretary normally holds monthly meetings with the security heads in Tobago, which is just as a matter of courtesy, because he does not have legislative jurisdiction over these entities. So we meet the teacher, provide support in terms of resources, improving accommodation, providing vehicles, renting apartments for law enforcement. So the teacher has been contributing to the improvement of security on the island, notwithstanding that it is not a direct schedule responsibility for the teacher. We have even at the time of Mr. London, we have been pressing the button on the central government side, saying that we need to look at what is happening at the ports of entry between Trinidad and Tobago and the porosity of the borders around Tobago, because we are an island state, and we have been asking the central government about having vehicle scanners installed at the ports of Scarborough. And that is over 15 years we have put that on the table as one of the national security infrastructure that is required to improve the monitoring and examination of what is coming from Trinidad and vehicles every day, every night. Hundreds of cars and vans and trucks are offloaded into Tobago, and we have no deep understanding of what is coming to Tobago in those vehicles. And a vehicle scanner at the port can solve that problem using the technology that is available. And we have seen over the years where a number of illicit items, including firearms and drugs, have been seized by police officers carrying out exercises at the port. So definitely we need to improve the security infrastructure at the ports, that where cargo and passengers are moving between Trinidad and Tobago. We need to improve the border protection capability of our national agency, the Coast Guard, immigration, customs. Those are things that need to be improved. But let me ask you this. What has been the institutional response nationally to this emerging 20 years plus emerging trend of gun violence in this country? What new institutional capabilities have we established in response to this challenge? What reconfiguration have we made to the Ministry of National Security to pay particular attention to the features of gun violence in this country? Not a single item of change in our institutional construct. It is the institutions of state that utilizes the resources of the state to provide the solution to our problems. One attempt was made by the late Prime Minister, Mr. Manning, when he established the serious anti-crime unit SORT. And what happened? Another government came in and shut it down. Well, these are fundamental questions that we need to ask. Why are we still operating a national security ministry in the same format that it has been established over 100 years ago?
Mr. Richards, it's not too often that the questions switches, but very good questions, because I myself have been asking it, and I honestly don't know the answers, because I myself am rather confused at times. I am very baffled my times as a citizen of TNT, and it is very much concerning. But before we end the conversation, I mean, there was a bit more that I wanted to get into, but time does not necessarily permit. However, given the fact that you stated that the Chief Secretary is seeking interaction with the Prime Minister, and that you believe that the Chief Secretary should be included at times in conversations in the National Security Council, to what extent do you believe that this dysfunctional relationship that has existed between the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary impacted upon national security, especially in the context of Tobago and Tobago security?
Well, I think it's public knowledge that there's a strained relationship between the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister. But from my perspective, there's a legislative requirement for the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister to meet to resolve matters like these and co-create solutions. And I'm saying that in spite of what the relationship may be at this particular point in time, the Prime Minister and the central government, given their mandate for the security, which is the primary responsibility of any government, is the security of its citizenry. That's a foundation of government, the security of the citizen. And the Prime Minister and his cabinet and his government cannot deploy collective punishment against the Tobagonian because of whatever the relationship is between him and the Chief Secretary. The Prime Minister has to take the higher ground. And when the Chief Secretary reaches out to him, he has to put the security of the people of Tobago and the visitors to this island above all his personal feelings and idiosyncrasies, and ensure that he exercises his constitutional jurisdiction and responsibility to the people of Tobago. That's my fundamental position on this matter.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Richards, we are out of time, and disappointingly so. Disappointingly so, we are out of time. I wish to expand on this conversation, but for now we're going to have to pause on it. So I hope we can have a part 2 soon.
I'm available. Thank you.
So thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. Thank you so very much for joining me on the program this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize for the abrupt pause in the conversation. Time doesn't necessarily permit, but we will take note of the final responses, and we will continue the conversations in due course. It happens at times. But we're moving on now here on AM Prime. We're going to take a quick break, and upon our return, well, it's the first edition of Wild Wednesday for 2024. We'll be right back after this.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Subhash Pandey pays tribute to his late brother Basdeo Pandey. Opposition leader slams the government on crime. Regional news. St. Vincent and the Grenadines government explores acquisition of private island. Now for the details. In a heartfelt tribute, Subhash Pandey, the brother of Basdeo Pandey, spoke about their shared journey from poverty and how Basdeo remained dedicated to uplifting others facing similar challenges. Subhash recounted the family's financial struggles, revealing the potential hindrance it posed to Basdeo's education. He emphasized that their modest background ultimately fueled Basdeo's determination to champion the cause of workers. Subhash underscored that, for Basdeo, aiding the less fortunate remained a paramount purpose even beyond his passing. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisasa has once again criticized the government over its handling of crime following a bloody start to 2024. In a statement, she said, the first week of 2024 has recorded 15 murders, more murders than any comparative period in the recent years. The last 2 years, 2023 and 2022, have been the most murderous years in the country's history, 575 and 605 homicides respectively. Still, Dr. Keith Rowley arrogantly rejects the pleas of a terrified population and persists with his failed National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines and Police Commissioner Earl Christopher Harewood. Regionally, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is exploring the possibility of acquiring Balisu, a privately owned island in the Grenadines. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has revealed that he instructed the chief surveyor to assess the island's value. The government aims to initiate negotiations for purchase or, if an agreement cannot be reached, consider legal measures for acquisition. Gonsalves highlighted that discussions about Balisu have been ongoing and the matter of the island being put up for sale was raised on March 14th, nearly a year ago. Well, that's it. News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thank you for watching.
My name is Carl Media. I am the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street Woodbrook, Metropolitan Bookshop Ariapita Avenue Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Hello there and welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for joining me. I think my call is giving me a bit of trouble. Forgive me there. Anyway, thank you so much. It's Wednesday and the first edition of AM Prime on a Wednesday for 2024. And what does that mean? Drum roll, please. Can I get a drum roll? Ricardo Mead is with us. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good
morning. Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Wonderful to be here. 2024.
Ah, yes, indeed. How was your time off? Oh, wait, sorry. Forgive me for being rude, because I see you brought 4 friends with you this morning.
Yes.
Because Miss Michaela Joseph is with us for the first time. Welcome to AM Prime.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know what you've gotten yourself into this morning, but we're going to see later on.
Yes.
We'll introduce the other friends in a bit.
Yes.
But how was the Christmas season for you guys?
Hectic.
Good.
One said hectic, one said good.
Yeah.
Let's start with
I hardly saw her.
So it was good.
So it was even more hectic for us, you know. She was out paranging, and she had Blanche says, Paramin, she's having a time.
Kayla, I wish I met you sooner.
Yes, that is true.
I needed some of that, actually.
So now she has to work this morning.
And
yes. Next week is very, very significant. I'm seeing it right now. You're not seeing us next week.
Oh, thanks for letting me know in advance.
We get some other volunteer to pop in, but next week, Michaela and I are off to Florida.
Oh, okay.
For a wildlife conference, the FWRA. So that's the Florida Wildlife Rehabilitators Association Annual Symposium. So there's been a lull for us because of COVID, and then literally getting our feet under us and getting back again. And now we're going. So we started back small again. The first time I went, I took 1 volunteer. Michaela is going with me today. The last time we went, we had as many as 7 in the Trinidad delegation go. And that's important because, again, education. So we're not just educating the public, we have to educate ourselves. Better techniques in wildlife rehabilitation, even the education, administration of the facility. You know, we have so much to learn. just how to interact with people so we don't take phone calls and, ask them the wrong thing, like, you don't know where the center is, bring in the animal and, stuff like that. So,
as soon as he said take phone calls, and exactly what I was going to.
Well, we get 75 calls a day. So,
wow.
We have to address the situation properly, People call in, I have some cats. And deep down inside me, it's like, oh gosh, we don't deal with cats, it's a wildlife center. But I can't, you still have to be very diplomatic and very civil on the phone. Ma'am, it's a wildlife center and we do not deal with domesticated animals. I wouldn't tell him, you don't know what TSPC is.
I'm so glad that you've mentioned that on air, actually. Because my response would have been like, I'm sorry, we are not TTSPC. but fair enough, I get that. And good luck next week. Enjoy it. Lots of learning to come. And it only helps, even with this program, because when you guys come back, we can have further conversations on that.
Yes.
But you have some other guests with you today.
Yes. Well, it's supposed to be 3 boys, but I think there's a girl in there somewhere.
You think?
Yeah. When the snakes are small, it can be, without probing them, which is something I don't like to do, it can be a little tricky sometimes telling the boys from the girls, because some things are relative. So we had Alistair and Jafar, who were ascribed as male gender, he, him, and now it seems like Jafar is Jafari, I would imagine. It seems like it might be a female, but we know for sure George is a boy. George is,
Should we rename Jafar to something like, maybe like Leslie or, something to that extent,
Possibly. Once it's confirmed that, it's a girl, we'll have to, ascribe a proper name to that gender. I'm sorry, I'm pretty much very binary, this one or that one, and I haven't caught up the young people thing, the younger, newer stuff. So I'll just kind of hold on to that.
Don't even bother. Don't even bother trying to get caught up in that, because genders used to be something so simple, and now it's just all over the place. But beyond that, exactly who are our 3 friends this morning?
So,
because this is a different inclusion. You never walked with a basket like this before. So.
Well, yeah, it's because of Nadia. Because of Nadia.
Is it who?
Nadia. Nadia Watson. If you're looking for something to put inside the basket, I have the whole.
I like how you immediately
blinking market.
Immediately, it's like, let me just.
Yeah, you just hold on to that one, and then we have this one, and then we have this little guy here. You're gonna come out for me now, Georgie?
I don't know.
Now it's time to come out.
Here
we go. See?
Because you're
snakes.
Gripping all over.
We got snakes here this morning.
Bloody hell! These things are pure muscle.
Yep. So I think you have Alistair. So what you do, just keep your hand open. Don't hold it. Really.
Oh, just hold it.
Don't hold it. Let it relax. See? Once your hand is open, you relax. Open your hand, loosen your grip. There we go. All right. So we have 3 red-tailed boa constrictors, otherwise known as mackerel.
Oh,
you see a mackerel.
Okay. Now I'm glad you started off that way, because my first thought was that mackerel is just a general term used for boas in Trinidad, but it's specific to red.
Specific to the red-tailed boa constrictor. And as you can see, we can all present their tails. Yes. Let me have your tail here, Georgie, below the table. All their tails have a sort of a reddish color to it. Okay, hence the name, red-tailed boa constrictor. Even your guy, you can swing your tail out, and you'll see it's a nice shade of red.
I'm not sure he wants to move his tail.
Yeah, he's kind of locked in there.
He's locked
that's
in.
all right. So just bring that tail forward there. All of them have different, little shades of red, but you can generally call that a red tail. Hence the name, a red-tailed boa constrictor, mackerel.
These guys are absolutely beautiful, but they're so powerful. I just feel like pure muscle moving.
Yeah, pure muscle. And they'll want to hold on and move around. They're realizing really quick that they're not getting much mobility on the counter, so they will slide down to the edge and hold on.
Yeah, grip.
And then just start to relax that way.
So whom do I have here?
That might be
you got
Alistair.
Okay.
And I think the lighter color one is Jafari. Right? And well, of course, in the middle
big guy is George. Big guy
George is the one in the middle there. And they're growing young people, young snakes. I think George is coming up on about 4 years old now. So
and you say that's young?
Yeah, they can grow and live for quite a while. What interrupts that growth is trees with something called a tree line. You know, sometimes a car tire and all that sort of thing.
Michaela, you interact with these snakes all the time.
Yes.
You like snakes. You're fascinated.
Oh, so let me tell you, there's a whole story behind this.
All right. Immediately responding to some.
Firstly, when I started off with the center, I definitely didn't like snakes, but I was forced to like them because one, I'm a vet student, and two, I need to learn how to handle them because this is my field. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations and best of luck in your studies.
Yes, thank you.
Because veterinary studies are not the easiest at all. But now I understand the scripts.
Yes.
Yes.
But no, that's good. So you were forced like them. You were forced to interact with them. So you've learned.
And then I noticed these in particular, they are very docile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They have a mild temperament, so.
So let's speak about this then, because you mentioned that trees are disruptive. Yeah, he's like, let me just move it. Yeah, you go ahead, buddy. You just make yourself uncomfortable. Don't bite.
Right.
Anyway, so as we were saying, these are red-tailed boas. You're seeing that they also get bigger than this.
Yeah, they can get up to what, 12, 13. I think the one was recorded at about 14 feet.
Yeah.
And that would be a female. The females are bigger because they produce quite a lot of offspring.
Yes. And it's not live offspring, is it?
Yes.
It's live.
Yes. They produce live. But it's a strange thing is that they give live birth, but what they do, as opposed to laying eggs like a lot of other reptiles, they retain the eggs within their bodies and incubate them there, really.
Really?
Yes. So there's, let me see if I make sure I don't get this wrong.
Oviviviparous.
Right.
Are you slicing me up?
Right. Oviviviparous.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they just keep the eggs in their body, incubate them, and then they let the ones out live, which is actually the very best way to do it.
Really?
So you really take care of your babies the
Are there
best
any
way.
instances where possibly, what if an egg unfortunately dies within the snake or something to that extent?
They pass it out, or it remains encapsulated, and they come out as slugs, what's called slugs, and duds. So it's the same thing that would happen with an egg outside with a chicken. They just retain it within, and then it passes out at the time of birth. You can call it that.
Oh, that's incredible.
So they're not
Wow.
considered pregnant. When you see a female and she's really full and big, and you're pretty sure that she has babies in there, you wouldn't call her pregnant. You still call her gravid. That means she has eggs within her.
Wow.
So it's a different process.
So, okay, and roughly how many young do they give on average?
Depends on the size, but some of the bigger females we've had I think 48 from one already.
Yeah.
48?
Yes, which we took the time to distribute far and wide all over Trinidad.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is it, okay, it's in their nature because they're babies, so
Right.
going back into the wild is absolutely fine.
Yes.
Right.
I think generally though, like these guys who are in captivity with good reason, in terms of their release, because we've spoken about releasing animals back into the wild previously, what is that like for snakes? Is it just very easy for them to adapt?
Yeah, everything within them is set to do what they have to do. Very simple brains, very simple functions. Their bodies, everything is just meant to do that. But once there is no physical limitation for that, then they're fine to go back in the wild and do what they normally do.
So, Michaela, at the Wildlife Center, in terms of interacting with snakes, what is your, I mean, getting over that fear, you can easily handle these snakes, deal with these snakes.
Yes. Thanks to Mr. Ricardo Mead.
And babysit these snakes as well.
Yes.
And what about feeding? Big feeding.
Well,
I mean, I think there's an understanding that generally they tend to target rodents and birds, but is there diet beyond that? Or does it include anything else?
Well, large snakes can eat cats and dogs. That can and has happened.
The adults, like the bigger.
A big snake can. You know, we've seen it. The video was posted right here in Trinidad where one was in a drain close to a house. I believe it was in Cascade, and it had just eaten a feral cat, a stray cat, and then a guti. There's another video posted from Tobago where recently they killed a snake, and then someone came by and cut the snake open, and you'd have seen an agouti.
Even iguanas.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah.
So there's a wide selection of food out there for them naturally in our biodiverse ecosystem, and but when they get close to people, well, the rats the Norway rats, which were not a normal part of their diet because they did not come from Trinidad. They were brought in here when Columbus and his merry crew came here and did their thing. So that's a European feature that came here, and these snakes are very important to help control that. And you're getting really friendly with that.
I'm getting friendly because he's like, I'm
right?
trying to grip on
everything. Yeah, just don't let it get, keep the head up. Even if the tail grips, keep the head up, and
there you
I'll
go.
usually keep it
You make yourself
around.
comfortable, okay? Yeah.
So they have lots here.
You make yourself comfortable.
Yes. So there's lots of, they have quite a varied diet, depending on what is around. So that's why they're also very important. Europeans brought in the Norway rats, and our snakes here have literally adapted and absolutely love them. It's probably their #1 prey item. And because the rats go from small to, almost a kilogram easily. So the snakes love the rats. So we don't go out and catch the wild rats normally. At the last center we did, I would set out dozens of traps and catch lots and lots of rats and freeze some of them. I had so many at some point I had to freeze them.
Really?
Yeah, put them to sleep, put them in 6-packs and freeze them. So you just go pull out a 6-pack from the freezer, defrost it, warm it up, and the snakes would have a feast.
Can you imagine the snakes thinking, I could do with a 6-pack today?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of how it went, And one of the best experience I had, I bought a special rat trap, as it were, from Australia called the Terminator, and it used amplified electricity to kill them. So it was and that made it perfect for me because now I didn't have to kill them anymore. They went in there and they got 20,000 volts through their body. Death was just about instant. And then I had a perfect preserved body with no blood, which I was able to now put into nice Ziplocs and label the date and so on and put them into the freezer.
These snakes are treated like kings.
Look at what, if we had left the rats, imagine the damage they would have done to poultry, livestock, and even people through spreading disease.
Like leptospirosis.
Yes.
That is deadly. It's like a silent killer in Trinidad. A lot of people are afflicted, a lot of people die, but nobody's really talking about it enough to make people aware and understand rats are a big problem. And, we're just glad we have these around.
Funny enough, I've driven through some parts of Trinidad, all over, and there are times that I've had to look twice because you see something crossing the road, and I thought it was a small cat. It's actually a rat.
Yeah.
Like the size of these things now.
They're huge.
They're massive. They're massive. Yeah. But, okay, how many species of boa do we have in Trinidad?
Boa, I would say we got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4.
At least 4?
Yeah, so the anaconda is in the boa family. You have the red-tailed boa, the rainbow boa, and the tree boa. At least 4. There's one that's fringe, but I will go with 4 for safety and say at least 4.
So there's always the possibility that there's another one out there that we haven't discovered, and thankfully in many cases.
No, not true. It'll be an amazing thing to discover more. And they're still discovering so much stuff out there. There are people out there looking and researching and finding things and doing the DNA and the comparative analysis and determining, hey, this is something different, this is something new. But, we still have so much to learn. That's why it's important for us not to destroy what we have before we know what we have.
Yeah.
Imagine somebody giving you a bag of gold and you're like, this stupid old bag, it's heavy, just let it scrap iron man take it. And then he opens it and he's like, oh my goodness, I retiring. I'm not singing no scrap iron no more, I'm singing soca or something. You have to know what you have to appreciate it. So we're trying to get that level of knowledge across and understanding, appreciate these animals and what they do. Okay? And rub your hand on it like this there and show the public the slime on your hand. See how slimy it is? Is there any slime?
He's got a little bit of slime on him, yeah.
Not
very much, very much.
There's no, that's you cold sweating.
That has to be it's like very little.
Yeah.
I was seeing that gloss, I'm like, so
yes.
That's why, what is that? It's me,
slimy.
Yeah.
Snakes are not slimy. And, they saying, well, one, for the young people who are looking at this, I want to put out there one time that snakes and reptiles on the whole are not cold-blooded. We've been taught that.
Yes. You know why we've been taught that? Because we all believe that it goes along with cold-blooded killer.
Right.
And predators. So that's why they say cold-blooded.
Right.
No, they're not.
Right. So they're actually ectotherms. That means they produce their body temperature from outside. So in the air-conditioned studio right now, they're cool. When we go outside in a short while and the sun is blazing, they will heat up and get quite warm. So cold temperature, cold snake. Warm temperature, warm snake. And this is the reason why in the Arctic and Antarctic, there are no reptiles, because they can't control their body temperature. They're just going to be cold, they're going to sleep, and then eventually die.
I think, by the way, he's very comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like so calm and
Found
relaxed.
his spot and just chilling.
What I found with these snakes, when you have them, they'll move a little bit and then they get comfortable afterwards.
I was just about to actually come back to an ask you in that sense. I mean, how long did it take you to get over that fear?
From since I started with the center, a couple months.
And was it something that's easy? Was it something that was easy? I mean, it took a couple months,
first,
but you know.
first interaction, no. But then on the second interaction, yes. It became very easy.
Are there any snakes that you don't think you'd want to handle?
Green anacondas, I don't know. I still kind of have a fear for them, but
Size of them, huh?
I guess the size and the color, I don't know, it's just something about them. Still, I have a fear of them.
I got over that fear quite some time ago, actually, when I realized just how calm these guys could be. But I think what we need to stress as well for the viewing public, these animals are in captivity. It's different when you're interacting with wild animals.
Correct.
Because as I mentioned at the start of the program, I saw one video of a guy interacting with a snake. I can't recall what species, but interacting with a snake, laughing, having a good time, and then all of a sudden it just bit him on the face. He was lucky, it was right below his eye. And that was here in Trinidad. So please don't be stupid.
Yeah, these are wild animals. So happens that these are animal ambassadors. So they have literally from birth been in our hands, and we have socialized them, and if you want to use the word, train them to accept human contact and be around people, to be in the air condition, to be in the sun, situations where there is noise and stuff like that there, and to remain quite calm and okay with it. So they're very well socialized. That's the proper word. They're properly well socialized. So we can use these animals to give them a positive wildlife experience, and they learn about our wildlife in a good way rather than have fear in front of them. They get a chance to touch, and they learn there's no slime, and then to hold it and feel the muscles, and then see the pattern that even runs through their eyes. There's so much to learn, and they're so fascinating. And every single snake has a different pattern. It's almost like your own ID card or your fingerprint. All right, they might look alike. You see that one is lighter and more pink, that one is more gray. This one has like a blend of the two colors and more patterning. Everyone is different.
I'll be honest with you, it really doesn't bother me, because I absolutely am fascinated with them myself. But if we take a look at the anatomy, just for education purposes, we've seen those two, what looks like a nose. But is that a nose or is that heat?
Nostrils.
And do these guys, well, I know you see most of them in trees. Do they like swim? Do they go underwater?
They can swim, they can hold their breath for long periods underwater, and they're quite mobile also just on the regular ground. So these are real Trini snakes. They get around.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Everywhere. You'll be surprised how quickly we'll get over a fence and move along, all over the place. They are quintessential Trini snakes.
So in Trinidad, do they have any predators?
Humans, and I would imagine the ocelot.
I liked how the first thing was humans.
Yeah, because did you see the video where they killed the snake, cut it up, skinned it, cut it up, and curried it?
No,
and ate it?
I actually didn't see that, but I did see a photo of what looked to be mackerel soup somewhere in Arima.
Yeah. So the first and main predator for these animals would be Trinis, humans, and then you have possibly ocelot. The smaller ones go after the ocelot, and if they're small enough, there's some birds like herons and so on, even birds of prey. We have birds of prey that will go after them. The white hawk, we met Sky the white hawk. Snake is one of our favorite foods. It just loves snakes. The reptiles and the whole snakes and iguanas, they absolutely love them. So a snake that's a good enough size will swoop down, grab it, take it off, kill it, eat it. So and there are other ones.
Yes, the caiman.
Yeah.
The mighty caiman.
Yeah.
Yes. Small but powerful.
Yes.
Small but very powerful.
The good thing for the snake is that it doesn't usually get into the water in its environment, but whenever he does, the caiman is the king. came
So
when it
Michaela,
became.
as somebody who's really gotten over their fear and somebody who's interacting all about education, what do you want people to really, just as you've learned, what do you want them to learn and know about interacting with these creatures?
I mean, they are very nice animals. I can admit that. Before I couldn't admit that. Yeah, I really like working with them. You know, they serve a really good purpose, as we talked about before, with rodents, you know. So, yeah, they're really nice animals.
I think that's very important, how you stress that they serve a purpose.
Yes.
They're not just there because
you
they're...
know, there's a big zoonotic disease, as we said, leptospirosis, and that's something that can transmit from animal to human and from human to animal, so.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, you have a vet in the future that's going to be there in the sense as well.
Definitely interested in wildlife.
Certainly. Well,
yes.
I love it as well. I didn't study it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I must say, I'm so glad you guys brought 3 this morning, because we all got to interact and we all got to have a good time. This guy is so comfortable. So comfortable. It's like I'm just going to lie right there. Barely moved his... Well, I guess you'd say the tail is wrapped around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wrapped around the arm of my chair. So
They love to feel supported.
I think I'm gonna have to stay like this for a while because he's getting he's just resting. Ricardo Mead, you guys are off to Florida next week.
Yes.
I will miss you guys next week.
You know what? Since you're into the snake so much, I'll probably arrange for an anaconda or something to come by. All right, we're not going to leave a void. We're going to get somebody to come by. You know, that's how the center. That's how we roll at the center. This is 24.
As long as it's not more than 6 feet, yeah, sure. No problem.
Well, snakes don't have feet, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's not.
But it'll probably be 12 or 13.
I don't think the desk is
long.
that long. I don't know.
Well, we'll put a couple of volunteers on the end to support head and tail. But you know, if you're going to bring out the big guns,
bring out the big
guns. Bring out the big guns.
All right, okay, I look forward to it. I look forward to it.
You know what they say, right? Big goatee, small goatee, same shot.
That's a new one for me, actually.
That's an old one that you use a lot.
Yeah,
they're not going to go and change a gun or change, you know, they do the same thing. And well, we're hoping that, you know, big goatee, small goatee, no more shots, and they can be preserved to enhance the lives of us all. So I'm looking forward to February, the end of February, which means end of hunting season.
Ah, yes.
And, well, the continuance of poaching season.
The legal
season.
hunting
Right, yeah. So I know there are a few good, decent, proper hunters will put down their weapons and give the animals a chance, but we all have to join together to persecute and annihilate the poachers because they will affect us all in a very negative way.
Certainly. Do these guys, by the way, ever close their eyes? Or are they always open?
Always open.
I think I'm going to have to take 1 or 2 lessons from you guys. Half the time my eyes are closed. You know, I have a different problem to Michaela. I'm absolutely fine with snakes. Fine with all the birds, fine with everything.
Yeah.
Spiders. Cockroaches. No, thank you.
Yeah.
You're okay interacting with them?
No, I'm not okay.
Finally,
I'll choose snakes
finally
over them.
somebody from this center who understands.
Yes.
So since she's not going to be here on the 24th, neither am I think we can probably have the pink-toed tarantula come in.
No, you can have the anaconda, as you said.
Well, that's going to be on the 17th. That's next week. The 24th it's 2 Wednesdays we're going to miss.
Well, bring 6 feet next week and 6 feet the other week. Yeah. Spread it out over 2.
You know, well, 6 feet, that would be a cockroach. They have 6 feet as an insect.
Well, it's just...
It's important, you know, people got to learn about this stuff.
I said it was good to have you back. Why didn't leave your sense of humor at the center?
You know, but you know, you're gonna have fun. We're not gonna miss a beat with Wild Wednesday, and this year we have a terrific lineup, and quite thanks to the amazing biodiversity that we have right here in Trinidad and Tobago. We don't have to go far. We don't have to bring lions and tigers. We got some cool stuff right here that I'm sure so many people out there don't know about. I would just love to know because, like, oh my gosh, I saw that one time. You know, we might get lucky, and that's how rehab goes. You never know when that phone rings, what's on the other end of the line.
Of those 75 calls, probably 74 cats.
Well, a few each day. And now a big problem are monkeys. So we have to find a way to deal with the monkey
I
situation.
remember you telling me that late last year that the situation is people always want to have monkeys as pets. They don't know how to deal with them at all.
Correct. And they believe the solution is let them go.
No.
These animals are invasive, so they're creating a major problem here in our country. And almost every day we get several monkey calls. Really? So right now we have some in Diego Martin and Tunapuna that have to be, they're getting around. Okay. There was one call, it was in the middle of the highway. It's coming much worse. And it seems like instead of people heeding our calls to leave the animals alone in the wild where they belong, I want a monkey, I want a monkey. I can imagine how many girlfriends have gotten monkeys for Christmas. Because they're like, I would like to have a baby. And the guy's like, baby? All right, I'll give you a monkey. He's done with that. Right? But it's a terrible choice. It's a terrible choice. Giving animals as gifts, not the best idea. It's coming from your heart, but not from a place where the person who wants it or has the ability or the legal propensity to keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to consider all of these things. So it's not really a good idea.
I doesn't even go for monkeys. I think generally in getting any pet, people think, it's nice. They don't know the responsibility.
Yes. Yeah. Many chickens and little bunny rabbits are going to be traded coming up for Easter.
Yeah.
With the colors and them.
And the
then,
colors,
and then the kids think it's like a plush toy. You just put it down and leave it. It has to be taken care of. It eats, it sleeps, it poops, it has to drink water. It's just so much care to go into it. So let's not try to be abusive to animals. Let's do the right thing. Leave them and love them just about where they are. And if you encounter ones that are injured or orphaned, then you can reach out to us. Wildlife, that is. Please, we're getting killed with the cat calls, because that's another major problem we have here in Trinidad. I'll try my best to direct your calls in a responsible manner, but we do wildlife rehabilitation. So if your problem looks like this in your roof or anything like that, we're there for you. Okay? If it's your cat, your dog, your rabbit, your ex-boyfriend, that is your problem. Keep us out of that, please.
If it's your ex-boyfriend, it might be something wild as well, though, so.
Yeah, but not the kind of wildlife we deal with, right? And as soon as, only people right now are probably commenting, hey, look, my ex and she family on the show and all that. You know, it goes in the treaties and stuff like that there. So, a true, real, bona fide wildlife we deal with. The other stuff, well, you're on your own with that, Call the TSPCA and the TTPS.
That's your problem, that's not mine. Michaela, a pleasure meeting you. Enjoy the trip next week.
Yes.
And come back on the program so you could tell us all about what you guys learned.
I definitely will.
You could educate us and bring these guys back. Please, he was so good this morning. He was such a good guest this morning.
Yeah.
And he still is a good guest. Ricardo, good seeing you again. All the best for the year ahead. I think he wants a kiss.
Yeah, Georgie boy is very, very friendly.
And guys, well, thank you very much for joining me on AM Prime this morning. And I get to close the show, not just with me alone, but we got special guests in the studio from myself and my little friend here. Well, we wish you a very good day ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I'm Sean Michael Small, and we are WESN, the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to